Hello there, world of tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and in today's video, I am going to be showcasing the easiest 7,000 damage, almost 8,000 damage game I have had possibly ever. I mean, this was just an absolute farm fest from the beginning to the end of the game. And the vehicle it was played in, the Jagdpanzer E100, a tank which you would not expect to farm 8,000 damage easily, but alas, yeah, this tank was able to get it out quite quickly. The Jagdpanzer E100, in the latest update of the game, was slightly nerfed and buffed at the same time. It received a little bit worse aiming time, it also received worse damage per minute, but in return, gained 10 millimeters of frontal armor. And because it's angled, it's more like 15 to 20 millimeters effective if you're using it properly. And if you pair that with the 3% buff you get from enhanced armor, you're actually looking at a rather substantial buff to this vehicle's frontal plates, and it means that actually mediums are going to struggle to cut through you, and even some of the heavies with lower heat pen, like a Concept 1B, 60 TP, the Kron, are going to struggle to cut through your superstructure as well. When you pair that with 323 mils of standard pen, 430 on the gold, and 800 damage per shot paired with tungsten, the Jagdpanzer can truly be one of the most dangerous tier 10s in the game. So we're going to see what the Jagdpanzer is able to do in this battle. What do we have up against us? Two 114 SP2s in platoon, we have a Kron and an M6 Yo. This is a very rare 4-heavy battle, and this is what I kind of love to see in Blitz. I like fighting heavies, I like fighting mediums, I hate fighting tank destroyers. And I know it's ironic, because I'm in a tank destroyer, but at least the Jag can play somewhat like a heavy, rather than just the generic, I'm in a TD, I'm going to sit at the back of the map and prolong the game. Normally, when you play on the NA server, it is usually 3 tank destroyers on both sides of the map, usually 1 or even 2 183s, quite commonly a grill. It's kind of annoying, because I want to be able to fight heavies, I want to be able to get out damage, and when you're fighting a lot of heavily armored vehicles, it gives you that opportunity to get out more damage. Speaking of damage, we activate our tungsten, and that Yo just lost 916 of his hit points, and we back into cover. This is obviously where the Jagdpanzer feels incredibly strong, when you're able to use that big old chunker of alpha and just nuke that poor Yo. Now, we do get spotted, and I was actually a little bit weirded out. I don't know what spotted me there. Maybe it was the AMX crossing, but we are running camo net on this tank, and we do have decent camo values actually in the AG, so it was kind of weird to get spotted. We're gonna aim in... Yeah, we're gonna aim in on the 114 SP2, and unfortunately for that player, he no longer exists. I don't know what the thought process was there. I mean, obviously an ammo rack is incredibly unfortunate, but why are you driving your 114 there to begin with? I was spotted here like 10 seconds prior, and you really thought driving out in the open in your 114 was gonna get pretty far. Well, our damage at 2 shots is 3,622. But let's boost that up to 4,400 now. What the heck? Yeah. Now you can understand why this was such an easy farm. Now, to be fair, I still would have been at over or close to 3,000 damage at this point in the battle, so it's not like I would have been low damage either way. And now we see a Kron who's rather oblivious. I'm just making sure that this shot pens, so I fully aim in my shell and deal 1,300 to the side of that Kron. Oh my god, we are at 5,700 damage. It has been 2 minutes now on the clock, and we are at 5,700 damage. Imagine if my team sucked, and there was still a bunch of HP left on the enemy team. CS59, no more, straight into the roof of his turret for another 800 damage. That now brings us to 6,500 dealt in this game, and an absolute steamroll of damage. So what do we have left? Well, we got a Kranvan in front of me, and I was thinking, wait a sec, why shoot the Kron when I can activate tungsten on the 114 and deal 900 damage, now putting my damage total up to 7,500. I was really, really hoping that I could get an additional 800 off of this Kron, but sadly my E4 is able to get the shell out. I was really hoping just somehow that E4 was gonna miss, but oh well. I do a nice 250 damage high explosive, putting my damage total to 7,742 in a battle that lasted less than 3 minutes. What the absolute heck. We aced it, quite obviously. We got a high caliber and netted over 160,000 credits. And the next highest on my team was 1,700. You can see when fighting heavies how easy it is to get out a solid amount of damage, rather than when you're fighting only mediums and tank destroyers, which is what the meta really seems to be lately, how hard it is to get out damage. But I'm not going to complain when I get a really solid result like this. This is probably the most damage I've ever done for a steamroll of this caliber. Normally, when you have a 7-0 sweep, it's pretty even in terms of damage. I mean, yeah, you'll see some 3,000s, maybe even a 4,000, but it's very rare to get almost 8,000 damage in a battle that has lasted less than 3 minutes. I mean, obviously, as I said, these 114s were absolute brain rots. Like, what are we doing, bro? Why are we, as a player with 10,000 games, still sitting at 42% win rate with a max of 4,000 dealt? And I don't get mad at players that are bad at the game. I just don't understand, personally, how you can play 9,000 games and still make the same mistakes that you made in your first 500. So, why not show another 7,000 damage battle? We had one really crazy victory. How about we show one maybe not so crazy victory? Well, we're going to find out what happens here. This is the Object 260, a Tier 10 Soviet collector heavy. And it is a vehicle that features great mobility, solid DPM, and a pretty good gun. I will say that if you compare the 260 to the IS-4, I kind of like the 260 more in certain regards, and I kind of like it less in others. Obviously, armor-wise, the IS-4 is much more effective. It has much better frontal armor, its turret is multiple times better, and when you pair that with the better heat penetration and similar DPM, the IS-4 in most situations feels strong. But there are certain advantages the Object 260 has. It has a higher top speed going 50 and does not rely on speed boost to achieve that level of speed. The vehicle also features much better levels of on-movement dispersion, meaning that you don't need to worry about your shells missing on the move. I'm even running Refined Gun, and we can see how much more accurate this vehicle feels, especially if you're a player who's used the IS-4, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Not only that, the major advantage I find of the 260 is the reverse speed. It is 20 kilometers per hour versus the very measly, I think it's 14 reverse the IS-4 has, so there are definitely advantages the 260 features. Too bad that shell only rolled 270 on that E100. But yeah, I think both vehicles have their own capabilities. Personally, I'd rather drive an IS-4 just because, in general, it has more capabilities than the 260. So far, our team is doing decent. The Murat is spotted in a pretty bad position, and we can see the WZ-132-1 in the open, so I'm going to aim it on his tank, get a quick shot, and there you go, nice. We also get an 81 additional damage from a fire there, so that's a pretty good start to this game. We have the E5, who I'm going to aim in on. We have the flat side, and we get a nice pen, and we get a bounce in the process. Okay, well that's pretty good. Let's see what we can continue doing here. We have the Yag Tiger, and we get a nice shell into the Yag Tiger. However, I make a bit of a mistake here, which I didn't think of until it was a little too late. The Yag Tiger, even as a no-camo player there, features 4,000 damage per minute. And that obviously makes it one of the highest DPM tanks in Tier 9. So I lost 1,000 health, essentially, from that Yag Tiger, just because I positioned myself in front. Now, to be fair, I took 1,200 off of him, but it's still not a great idea to bleed your health. It's not something I love doing. But hey, at least we get a bounce from that E5. Somehow he missed me, and now the 60 TP is going to push in. Full health, and that's obviously going to help me out. We get a nice shot into the E5, putting us at 4,600 damage dealt with our blind shot on the WZ-132-1. We get another nice shell into the E5, and oh boy, this isn't looking great for my team so far. The E5 actually manages to damage himself when shooting at the 60, and that puts us over 5,000 damage now. The enemy team still has 3 tanks left, and rather unfortunately, the Murat was actually able to connect a shell into our vehicle. I don't even know how he managed to hit that, but he did. So we're going to take a quick blind shot at the WZ. I can see the shell hit the dirt, though, sadly. So we got the 60, who has managed to bleed a lot of health, and not much else, really, right now. So, oh boy, this is not looking great for our team. I mean, it's a 3-on-3, but our M103 is no camo, and not a player I would entrust too much skill into. The WZ-132-1 is the major threat that needs to go. I get a nice shell into him, but how has our 60 TP managed to bleed 2,700 health in a matter of less than a minute? I don't know, but that really, really sucks, because it stops me from being able to do what I want to in this game, which is called win. I mean, we're up to 5,700 damage right now, but it doesn't really matter when, well, your team's not doing too well. So we see the WZ. and I need to get this WZ knocked out of the game. This is obviously a super big threat and a player that needs to go. So I'm going to make my way right over to the WZ, and I get a shell in. Imagine if he did not have a repair kit there. And the Marat manages to bounce my rear, and the M103 actually gets the clear on him. So not bad. And there you go. We get a nice shell into the WZ. So now it is me versus a 1500 health Vickers. So what are we going to do? I'm going to aim it on his track wheel, and it doesn't do anything to his track. I'm going to start turning my tank, but unfortunately we do not turn fast enough. The Vickers drives into the E100 corpse. We low roll our shot massively. Now I'm going to face hug this Vickers, but cuts right through my upper plate. The Vickers CR with calibrated shells has upwards of 330 millimeters of heat pen, which is equivalent to tier 10s. So with that much penetration, there was no world I was going to bounce. Even if I did pen him again, I would have had to have gotten 2 bounces there. It's just not realistic. So chances of winning this game were slim to none. But still, 250,000 credits earned. I got a high caliber and an ace even in the clenches of a defeat. We can see that my team just really had no clue what they were doing. Our M60 did 300 damage, and yeah, the rest of my team really didn't do too much better. 34,000 games with a 42% win rate. Just really disappointing. But I figured that this would be a fun video to showcase 2 very different yet very solid battles, and it shows you just how effectively sometimes you can get out crazy high games, and sometimes how inefficiently your team can lose crazy high damage games. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and if you'd like to see more like it, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!